Hi, welcome back to my channel, Fabulously Frugal and Fancy. I'm Brandy. Today we are doing some Christmas decor crafts, DIYs, however you want to say them. These are inspired a couple of different places. First of all, I saw a thing at Hobby Lobby. I also saw oh, the technique, one of the techniques I used, I saw from the show Mr. Kate. And then I believe it was the Latina next door when she did her Christmas in July, did something and inspired me to do part of this as well. So it's kind of a combination of inspiration from different places. And it was a lot of fun to do. It was a little bit, didn't turn out exactly how I planned. I had hand surgery, so cutting it was a little bit difficult and I had to get help with that. But the rest of it was pretty easy, pretty simple. So it's a lot of fun and I hope you enjoy watching it. Let's go make something fabulous.
Alright, so I start out with this large sketch pad that I have. It's probably, I don't know, 16 by 20. I'm not sure the exact size. I take 3 pieces out and I fold them in half. I'm going to make my Christmas tree designs so that I can make the shapes of Christmas trees. I cannot make anything the same on one side as I do the other, so I'm folding my paper in half and just going that way. If I can get the one side, then both sides will look exactly the same if I just fold my paper in half. Now I just see about how tall I want my tallest tree to be. I want one tree to be really tall. I started out to make 5 trees. I ended up making 4. So you'll see me in the beginning doing 5 trees, but I ended up making 4, and that's perfectly fine. They usually say an odd number is best, but I didn't get the 5th one done, so we're gonna go with the 4. So I start with my largest tree. And this one, I want to be just solid on the sides because this one's going to have a unique design later on. So I measure about how wide that is so that I know how wide to make the next one. Because I made the first one pretty narrow on the bottom. This one I'm making a little wider. And then I go how long I'm making it. I couldn't find my ruler, so I'm just using my my cutting mat there to draw a straight line from the height of it, and then I just go straight to the corner, and then I have the design there, and then I cut away the excess, and then I'm going to kind of use first I start just freehanding it. I cannot freehand, so I'm just making some angles and I want to make sure they're straight, so I'm using my cutting mat as my straight edge. It works. I did try to find my ruler and I found it after this project was finished. I could not find it before, so sorry, I didn't mean to leave this clip in here. I'd stepped away to look for my ruler and again could not find it, so I just continue using the cutting mat. Alright, I did find a little protractor, so I'm just kind of using this corner here to make the angles that I want to make in this Christmas tree. I just make 3 designs total, but I do end up making 4 trees. So one of this design, I believe, did not get cut out of the wood. So I just go in and make the little designs, then I cut them out. And I just cut out the angles. Again, my paper is folded so that they are exactly the same on both sides. And I left this in just so you could see the difference in the designs in the trees and how I came up with those designs, because like I said, I cannot freehand. They always look janky to me if I freehand them. So I used the little protractor. It's not a protractor, sorry, it's just a little triangle ruler there, and cut out the designs, and this is the shape of the tree that I came up with. Alright, so I'm measuring it with the paper because I want the next one to be shorter than those two. And a little bit more narrow. I just use that tree as a straight edge. Anything you can use as a straight edge always tends to work. So it's always funny when you can't find your ruler what you will use in between. Alright, so that's the size of the tree, those trees there. Alright, and then I just take that triangle ruler and I cut out, I use the same angle and I just go in different spots at different depths to make my cutouts here, and I did a lot less, so they're larger cutouts, but comes up with a totally different design for the tree than the other two. The one is straight edge, the second one I did lots of little cutouts, and this one I did larger, so it almost looks almost like an abstract tree when I'm finished with it, but it turns out in the end. I went to Home Depot and I picked up this piece of wood. This is a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Sorry about that. I thought I had turned the volume down on my phone. I apologize for that. And then I'm just using the patterns that I made to draw them out on to the piece of wood. And my paper is a lot more flimsy than I thought, so I'm also using that just to kind of give myself a straight edge on that. That one is a straight edge, but my paper was a little thinner, so if you just go a little slow, even on thin paper, you can do it. And I'm just kind of putting in different angles so I can fit. Originally, I was trying to do 5, and I ended up getting all 5 on this piece. I only cut out 4 just because I had had hand surgery and I couldn't use the jigsaw. I tried, and my boyfriend had to do the jigsaw and cut it out. He just ran out of time, so he didn't get to the 5th tree, and he was able to cut out 4 of them for me, so that's what I went with. I went with 4 instead of 5. Sorry, I'm just texting my mom real quick to let her know that I will give her a call back in a few minutes. And making sure the volume is totally down on this. Alright. Okay, sorry, I did leave a lot of this in, and I am just, drawing out all the shapes so that I have 5 trees to draw here. And if you are doing this project, I will recommend that you make sure that you have a table that you can use the jigsaw on and several clamps. Part of the reason I was having trouble was because I didn't have a table that was the right size and not enough clamps. And so the jigsaw was making it just jump too much, and it kept pounding my hand where I had had the surgery, and it just hurt too bad. Like I said, I got some help doing that. I had my boyfriend help me with that, and he cut them out, but it actually was pretty difficult because he did not have all the clamps or the right size, like a very large thing to put these down on, to clamp the wood down on. So that's just something to think about before you do this project. You could also use, at Dollar Tree, they have the wood cutouts. You could use those. I went with plywood and different shapes because I wanted my trees to be shaped differently, but you can use something other than the plywood if you want to make your trees a little smaller, or you could still do the different techniques that I use. Alright, so on this tree I take 3 of these, metal tile things from Dollar Tree. And I place these on, and again, had never worked with these before, so I did not realize what I should have done was draw the design and cut them out before I glued them on, because I measure here in the middle so that I can get that line of the two right in the center. And I'd measured on the wrong side and then had to remeasure. And then I take one of the tiles, and you could probably do this with 2 tiles if you cut them beforehand before you attach them. Now I do cut off just one little side there because I didn't want the seam in the middle to be too large. And this is when I realized that I should have just drawn it on and cut it out, because the adhesive on these is not all over the entire thing. When you cut it, you're actually like opening it to where there's no adhesive in the middle. So I glued that down, and then I just cut kind of a straight line there. And I was going to use that piece, and then I was just like, no. Oh, did I use that piece? Yes, it means I only used 2 of them. I did salvage that piece. So I did only use 2 of those tiles. And there's plenty. You could probably, you may even be able to do it with just 1 if you didn't mind piecing them together a little differently than what I had done. You can do this however you want and see how that is flopping up and down. So I take my glue gun, and here I made a mistake because my glue gun kind of deforms. It's not metal, obviously, it's a plastic thing with the design on it. And when I put the glue in the middle and then press it down, it kind of deforms the design a little bit. I leave it and I just work with it how it is because it's okay for me. But if you really want a detailed design on yours, then I would recommend using something other than hot glue, or maybe a low temp glue gun. And see, I'm showing you there how it kind of melted that design a little bit. My glue gun is a high temp. It does get very hot. So maybe that was it. I don't know. Like I said, my first time working with these tiles. So, but you live and learn. You do one thing and then you do something else. All right, so on this tree, I'm taking these gem stickers from Dollar Tree, and I am just starting by laying them on. I want different detailed designs on each one of my Christmas trees. So I'm sorry, my arm is in the way, and this is a really bad angle at first, but then it gets better. I don't make these straight across. I make them kind of go at an angle. I didn't want it to be like a straight line around. I kind of wanted it to look like it was like a garland going around, wrapped around a Christmas tree. And so that's kind of why I did the angled look on these. But I end up using 1 whole pack and part of another pack. I didn't use 2 full packs, but you do need 2 packs to do this. And you could do any gem sticker design that you want. You don't have to use this particular one. This is just what I had on hand. So I go all the way up, trying to keep the same distance between them and just kind of the same angle. And then I believe I just take off the excess because I kind of attached them all and then filled in any gaps because some at the very bottom were too short to go the whole length of the tree. So I just pieced those together. And at first I started to cut these stickers apart, but you can just kind of pull them apart from where you're working. You can just kind of hold down a piece and pull the other piece off. All right, so on this third tree, I am doing this. It's called Texture Magic. Somebody gave me a couple of these tubes in something, and so I'm using this stuff here to give texture, and I'm using a stencil. So I had these tools here. I wasn't sure exactly which one I was going to use. I ended up just using a spatula thing out of, I think these are just tools that are for like clay work and all of that. I just had them on hand. And so I just go and squeeze this out and kind of put it in the stencil. You could use whatever stencil design you want. This one's kind of like a fleur-de-lis design. And I really like this one. This one was inspired by a video I saw Christmas in July. The Latina next door used some molds and did some designs similar to this and put them on she put them in a frame in the shape of a tree, and this kind of inspired this design on this one. She's very talented. If you have never watched her videos, take a look at her channels and watch her. She's very talented, and she always comes up with a lot of unique ways to make things. And even if you are not the same style as she likes to make things, it's okay because you learn a lot of different techniques. I like to watch a lot of people whose style is totally different than mine, because I learned so many different techniques. And then I pull that stencil up and I just move the stencil down. I'm kind of playing with the placement to see where, and then I just keep adding that texture magic. It doesn't matter if it's totally flat. It doesn't matter, because the more texture, the better. You'll see the design in the end, how it turns out, and I really like how this one turned out. It was one of my favorite ones. The tube is actually, it's kind of hard to squeeze out, but it says to kind of massage the tube for like 30 seconds, and I think you have to kind of keep doing that to keep it coming out easily. Excuse me, I had to get a little drink of my coffee. And then I just keep using the same stencil. I don't wipe it clean. I'm not really too worried about, you know, transfer or if there's any little speckles, because I want the texture and the design, kind of give it a little bit more character, in my opinion. And you just have to kind of play with your little spatula there and see kind of what technique is going to work best for you. And then there's a smaller little design down there at the bottom. It's kind of like a swirly, I don't know, Baroque style design, and I just put it down here at the bottom on both of those. All right, now this tree, I did a totally different kind of design. I saw, this one is inspired by a craft that I saw on the show called Mr. Kate. Now that's more of a design one, but Kate on the show, she is very artistic, and she did something, she did a sculpture, and she used air dry clay to do one portion of it, and it kind of looked like draped fabric, and that was the kind of what I was going for with this. Now I was trying to figure out what I could use as a rolling pin, and this tin bottle did not work. I tried spraying it with a little bit of water. It just stuck even more. So I just was like, okay, I'll just use my hands. And this was actually good, because where I had just had the hand surgery, this was kind of like a exercising it, because they want me to use a stress ball to kind of exercise my hand. It wasn't a major surgery. I had trigger finger, and I had to have a surgery to repair it. So I just used my hand, and I flatten it out into, you know, pretty thin, not real thick, maybe a fourth of an inch thick. And then at first I start kind of laying it to where I'm kind of trying to make it look like draped fabric, and kind of like folding it. And that worked well. But then I don't know, later on I just kind of do the whole thing flat, and then I add the little ridges on top, because again, I never worked with air dry clay either. I bought the Crayola one, and I will say that this one ended up cracking after it was painted, and like a week later it had been totally dry. The paint was all dry, and then there were some cracks forming in it. I'm not sure why that was. Never worked with air dry clay before, so you know, I'm gonna research a little bit more before I do my next project, but I really like how this one turned out. I like the design, and I'm just kind of working my hands into it, molding it around. I want to make sure the whole front of the tree, excuse me, is covered with the air dry clay. And I do kind of take it around the sides just a little bit, but I don't want to leave it hanging off or anything. I just kind of mold it around the edge just a little bit to take away the sharpness. And I did sand these as well. I was able to sand them on my own. And what I have is the 1+ battery operated Ryobi Jigsaw that was used, and also, actually my boyfriend may have used his Milwaukee one, but I have the Ryobi one, and also the Ryobi palm sander that is also a 1 Plus battery operated, same as my glue gun and my drill that you can see there in the background. They're all Ryobi. Alright, I'm just adding more, kind of going around the edges, making sure I have it everywhere, and I kind of want it to look like it is like draped fabric. And the paint I'm going to use is like a green metallic, and I really wanted this to kind of look like a satiny fabric draped across the front of this Christmas tree. And so then, instead of using my technique that I was using first and kind of folding it up, I just make it flat, and then I'm kind of rolling like a little snake piece, you know, and you used to make snakes and stuff out of Play-Doh, and then I would just kind of form it into the little folds that I wanted in the fabric. So if you do something like this, just kind of play with the technique. I would suggest figuring out first the best way to work with air dry clay, because obviously I did something wrong because it cracked later on. It wasn't irreparable. I was just able to go in and paint those cracks green, and it just looked like it was part of the design, but it wasn't part of my design, and I'm not sure what happened. If you do know, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I will be doing more research on air dry clay, and maybe just buying a more expensive non-Crayola brand, because I know Crayola brand is made for kids. Maybe it's not made for something, quite this large. I don't know. Alright, so I cover the whole tree, and sorry, I did want to leave this in just in case anybody does want to kind of try to make this, because I didn't want to just start, show just one part of this and then not show you the full how I did this, because like I said, I've never done this before, and I was just kind of playing it by ear. So if somebody else is doing this, I want them to have a little bit more detail on how to do it. So as you saw, I took a small piece, I kind of rolled it between my hands, made like a long snake type thing, and then I would just place where I thought the next fold in the material or drape in the material should be, and then I just kind of put it on there and kind of worked it into the clay so you couldn't see that it was two separate pieces. If you kind of push your fingers in, it kind of makes it all look like one piece together. And I just did different angles and different things all the way up, almost to the top here, just trying to make sure that what I'm seeing in my head is kind of coming to life here on the Christmas tree. I really like how this one turned out. I really wish it wouldn't have cracked, but I really like how this one turned out. And if you, just to put in a little plug here, if you are not subscribed, I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. I would like to do that as soon as possible so that I can get my channel monetized. But I would also like you to join the channel, just that we can, we can be friends and we can talk. You can leave comments, and I'm trying to get better at doing one video a week. Sometimes I don't make it in quite a week. But I would like for you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and watch some of my videos from the past year that I've been doing YouTube. Now here, I'm just trying to smooth out all of my fingerprints and all of like the little detail work, making sure everything looks as smooth as possible. So I'm just spraying it with water. I sprayed my hands first, and then I'm just kind of rubbing across. It does give it a much smoother look. And it does help fill in any little areas, I wanted it to look like fabric, so it's not going to be totally smooth, and that I didn't want anyway. I wanted little bumps and ridges and irregularities, but I didn't want any, first of all, I didn't really want any fingerprints, just because I thought that wouldn't go with my look. And so I'm just kind of spritzing it with some water, rubbing it with my fingers, and then just kind of going over, making sure I get the edges. And here's how it turned out. This was, took several days for it to dry. All right, now I showed you the two paints. I don't have a ton of that metallic green paint, and I do have this Art Deco paint. It is a darker green, and so I'm just going in and starting to paint all of these. Now you do want to use a brush that you can get down into the grooves of all of the details on all of these Christmas trees, because the one with the little beads does have a lot of detail. I did have to like pounce it and just, you know, make sure when you're pouncing on all those little beads and all that space that you're also not leaving excess paint, because it'll fill in all those little ridges and take away some of your details. So I give all of them a base coat with this really dark green because I had a lot more of it. And then I figured I could go back in and just do a second coat over the darker. And then I found these, I was looking for Rub and Buff, and then I found these different colors of, it's like a metallic wax. And I found, I think I got 5 of them. There's a champagne gold, a cappuccino, iced cappuccino, a silver, a frosted white, and a rose gold one. I didn't use the rose gold one for this project, but I started with using a paper towel to try to buff this on. And it was just leaving a lot of, I don't know, I didn't really like the look with the paper towel. I didn't feel like I had enough control over where it was all going. And so I do switch here in just a moment, and I just use my finger on all the rest of them. So on a couple of these, I went over the metal one. I did not, or the one that's supposed to look like metal. I didn't use any of the metallic green paint, but I did on the other two just to give them a little bit more of a sheen. See, here's where I just start going in with my finger. And this stuff is pretty easy to wash off. You can't just rub it off, but if you add a little bit of water and a paper towel, you can get it right off your finger. So this metallic wax is really bringing out all of those details, all of the little indentions, and I really love how this turned out. It just gives it a very different kind of look. And I had seen if you watched my haul video, or no, my shop with me at Hobby Lobby, I believe that was last week or the week before, I showed you a tree that I had seen there, like a bunch of wooden Christmas trees. And that was $40, and the Christmas trees were really small. Actually, I think it was $49. But anyway, these are really large, and I did not put them on a base. The one that I saw in Hobby Lobby was attached to like a flat piece of wood on the bottom. But when I store these, I didn't want to have to worry about a base and how to store, because these are large enough as it is, and they're going to take enough space in my storage bins. So, and as I'm going to be leaning them against a wall on my like buffet dresser in my back porch room, then I didn't really want them to be on a base. I wanted them to just lean up against the wall. Alright, so there's a little glimpse of how that one looks. And then this one I believe I used the silver on this Christmas tree. And again, just using my finger because I'd already learned. And I'm going over the detail, but I'm also going over the middle pieces, like in between the detail, just to give it a little bit of a shimmer there, because you can see the green very well through these, that I didn't just want to do the detail on these. I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of the gold, the silver shimmer all over the tree. So I just use my finger and buff it on there, rub it around, make sure I don't have any clumps, because again, these beads, like the paint would try to clump in between them, and so did this wax. So I just really made sure that I didn't leave any clumps, because I wanted the detail to really come through and not a clump of, you know, stuff in the middle. Little glimpse of how that one turned out, and then we're going to move on to our third tree here. And this one I used the what's called the Ice Cappuccino. It looks like an old antique gold. It's not, you know, and I thought that that one looked really good with this green that I used on this one. And again, you just want to go over all the detail. Also, on this one, I did kind of go in the middle in between the details, just to give it a little bit of touch of gold. on all the pieces here. So this one is, excuse me, this one is one of my favorite. I actually love them all. I really do love how these turned out. And it's fun when you see different things and then you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to, you have an image in your head how things are going to turn out. And it's always fun when they come to life, and sometimes they're even better than what you imagined in your head. All right, so this one is the frosted white. And I'm just kind of going over the edges here. This one I used a lot of the metallic green paint on. Again, I wanted it to be kind of shimmery and metallic, and I'm going over those ridges. And to be honest with you, if I was going to do this one again, I would leave off the white and I would just leave the green as it was. This one does end up looking like frost or snow, but it kind of took away from the look that I was going for, where it would just look like draped fabric. And either one is fine. It just depends on kind of the look you're going for. And I really like how this one turned out. It just wasn't what I envisioned in my head. And so I would probably leave the white off of this one and just do the metallic green, because it was very shimmery even without the white, because it was a very metallic green, and I did like 2 coats of that on here after I did the other green underneath, just to give it really a lot of shine. Sorry, I feel like I got a tickle in my throat. And I'm just going around the edges, the bottom especially, because once I realized it was going to look a little bit like snow, I kind of wanted to play that up on the bottom a little bit. And my fingers are all completely covered. All right, and there's how that one turned out. Here's this one here. This is its finished product. Some of these pictures, it's kind of hard to get the actual detail. I don't know if the camera does it justice with the little shimmery metallic paint on there, but I really love how these turned out. I thought they turned out very beautiful. And here's the set of 4. I just again put them on this buffet, and here's a lot more of the detail. You can see the different colors of the metallic wax that I used, and I think it just shows up really well on all of them. Each one has its own unique color and design and detail, but they're all very cohesive and just stand up right there. If you wanted these to stand up on their own, you'd have to add a little something to the back, but I really, really like how these turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
So what did you think of the wooden Christmas trees that I made? I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you will like, subscribe. I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, sorry. And I hope that you will join my channel and watch the upcoming videos. I do have a lot of Christmas upcoming. I'm also planning a fun Vlogmas to do this year for the first time, so stay tuned for all of that. I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.